And now here we are, section 3 of chapter 2, where chemicals come to life. Okay, learning outcome here for this final section of the chapter. We're going to go over a couple of characteristics that are common throughout all living cells. Remember, from a biological standpoint, the unit of life is based on the cell. I could take a scalpel and go up to something, an animal, plant, whatever, or say an animal. Go up to an animal, carve out a chunk of it. I could go into the lab and I can keep that chunk alive. It's not the animal, it's now just a chunk of the animal. I could keep that alive for a couple of days maybe. I take that scalpel, cut up that chunk into individual tissues. I can keep that, instead of a day or so like the chunk, I can keep that going for a few days. I take that scalpel and take one of those tissues and I cut that up into individual cells. I can keep those individual cells going for a week or so. But the moment I take that scalpel and I cut open a cell, I've got nothing. I now have a soup of amino acids, sugars, lipids, but I have no living thing. So, fundamental unit of life. Now, it turns out that life is based on sugars, hydrogens, oxygens, carbons, blah, blah, blah. Carbons link together to start forming those macromolecules from the previous section. And then those come together and you start forming membranes, you start forming DNA, you start forming polypeptides, which become proteins, and they're the catalyst for metabolic reactions and so on. Bacteria and protozoa are going to be based on a single cell. Okay, there are no multicellular bacteria, there are no multicellular protozoa. Not to say that sometimes you're going to find bacteria that kind of work together, but it's still every cell for itself, which is completely different than us animals and plants. For us, as I said, you're sitting there, you're trillions of cells that are all working together in concert towards one goal. A clump of bacteria may work kind of sort of together, but in any given instant, every cell for itself. Not so in your body. Your cells take on different roles. Skin, mucosa cells, taste buds, retina, muscle, digestive cells, and so on and so forth. All these cells take on a role for the overall organism. Eukaryotic cells, us, plants, fungi, protists. The one and only thing in my courses that I sit there and say is what makes a cell eukaryotic is a nucleus. Which is not to say that I can't go in your body and find cells that don't have a nucleus. Yeah, red blood cells don't have a nucleus. They lose it during development in the bone marrow and all that. But I can find many, many, many cells in your body that don't have all the organelles. The ER, the smooth, the rough, the Golgi, the vacuoles, all the different vesicles, and blah, 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 blah. Right there, the nucleus. At some point in time, the red blood cells did have a nucleus. They just lost it during development. So every cell in your body at some point in time had a nucleus. Not so much the organelles. Notice, bacteria, archaea, these are what are referred to as, the prokaryotes. Pardon me here as I try to write with a mouse. Doesn't always work well. Prokaryotes. The pro means before karyote. Eukaryote means developed, defined, karyotes. The nucleus. Before the nucleus, with a nucleus. No nucleus. Okay? Bacteria, archaea, do not have bacteria, do not have a nucleus. They do not have any organelles. No ER, no Golgi. Pretty much for all intents and purposes. No internal membranes. They're still structurally very complex. People seem to think, oh, they don't have all the organelles and stuff, so they're rudimentary. They're rudimentary compared to ours, sure, but there's still a lot going on. I mean, we still study the bacteria to learn about our cells because there's so much going on there.